So we first tried breaking into soil with a pick and a shovel. Originally when we bought the property we had an excavator, so we used that to clear and burn and level the areas out. We don't have a tractor as of yet, although it's going to be on the horizon. And we have had the opportunity to barter with a neighbor who has a tractor, and when we are in desperate need of that sort of workload, then we can always work out a deal with him to come by and do some work. But for the majority, it's been hand tools.
We practice and teach no-till farming. We don't use a tractor. Tractors never go onto the beds. I shouldn't say we don't use a tractor. The only reason we have a tractor for moving things and for making compost.
Because I'm old and tired.
So it's turning. It took me a long time to talk Dirk into buying a tractor.
Yeah, so more and more we minimize how much we disturb the land. So we endeavor to add, we might enhance by, let's say, taking a fork or a U-bar digger and push it in the soil, and we may loosen the soil. But the main thing that we do is we add, because we understand that what you're actually doing is feeding the soil, and the soil feeds the plants. So we virtually ignore the plants and we look at the soil as a giant living organism made up out of trillions and trillions of organisms. And it's almost as if we're asking them, what is it that you need to work together with our mutual friends, the plants, which give you food through photosynthesis. And so that is our focus. Our focus is feeding the soil. So we stop using raised beds because of the amount of rainfall we get here, the amount of washing, the amount of erosion.
Well, we call ourselves living soils, so the type of tillage techniques we use here, we do use tractors because that's the only way that's going to save your labor. You're going to get the job done without too much labor. We don't use very much rototilling because it is hard on your soil, and particularly your soil fungi. So we use what we call a chisel plow, which breaks the soil and it deepens the soil. And we also use a raised bed, which we pull behind the tractor, so we don't have to actually drive on the beds we're growing on, so it reduces your compaction. And other tillage we use harrow, drag harrow, disc harrow.
Lots of mulching. Weed control, mulching is your friend. So we mulch a lot of the time when we weed, we compost all of the weeds. The compost goes right back onto the bed, so it usually keeps weeding down to a minimum.
Weed control. Oh, we use a whole range of methods, excluding herbicides. We do not use any of those, but we use flame weeding, stale bedding, hand weeding, also with something like a salad rotation. We just basically harvest once and turn in, so that that takes control. It takes care of a lot of the weeds in that business, which is can be really difficult. And use some fallow techniques, leave the land fallow. That if we have, like, say, weed pressure in a certain area, like hairy vetch or something, that way we just leave it fallow till the season warms up, and then control it that way. And also we use a lot of cover crops here just to suppress like weeds in the winter, winter weeds.
Obviously the tried and true test of pulling and or cutting them off at the base. We're hoping to be growing more volume of plants in the rows to sort of outgrow weeds. And we're trying a new technique this year called occultation, which will use black tarps to basically warm the soil and get plants to germinate. But by cutting out all the light, you eventually starve the plants, and they either die back or weak enough that they're fairly easy to deal with a rake and or a flame weeder is sort of where we're at this year.
Right, so our watering is definitely a combination of hand watering, drip, and a little bit of overhead. And even the overhead, the primary motivation there is again to moisten the soil in order to support the microbes that need moisture to live.
The irrigation we use, we have been using like a 2-inch sprinkler system, movable pipes with rotating heads. And with the hot, dry summers, we've now switched into quite a bit of drip tape, which really conserves water and gets the water right to where it needs to be. And we do rainwater collection and runoff collection into ponds, and we also use some well water.
We have in-ground irrigation in some of the areas, like in the garden that I put in a few years ago, and it's an overhead type irrigation with agricultural sprinklers. Any of the newer beds that we've seeded, obviously we have to go in and water a lot more often, so that's usually just done by hand with a hose. And the big field area is hooked up through a bunch of fire hose that's run off of our well, and I'll go down and come up with some kind of system, which is basically just eyeballing it and deciding when it needs to be turned on, and then hooking up or moving the stand-up sprinklers as they need to be moved around.
Quite a few books on farming over the years. Elliot Coleman's books I recommend, but in particular, which I would highly recommend, is to read Steve Solomon's books on gardening in this particular region.
I'd say John Jevons' book, How to Grow More Vegetables Than You've Ever Imagined, which is biointensive, which is where I got my beginnings when I visited his farm in California. And then, of course, Elliot Coleman. Yeah, his books are amazing. Yeah. And Carolyn Harriet's The Year-Round book.
0 Mile Diet.
Yeah. I have to admit that I've never really read a book on gardening. I'm one of those people that really likes the trial and error.
Farming responsibly is going to be trying to work a lot more with the land and not being so greedy. We have 14 acres, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to have something growing on every inch of the 14 acres. There's a lot of things that we need, be it woodlands. We have a wetland on the area, so that provides a huge amount of the ecosystem. I think it's just trying to be as sustainable as possible, but working within the boundaries of what you have, making it all work together, keeping it simple, because Mother Nature can do it all for us if we just sort of step back a little bit and let her do her thing.
Farming responsibly means taking care of your land, which is the key. You got to have good soil, you got to have a balanced soil, and so you can provide a good quality product, nutritious product to the customer. We try to, we do our soil tests every year, and we try to, keep our soils balanced, keep the calcium levels, magnesium levels at the proper levels, so that, our food is very high quality.
I think farming responsibly means that while we acknowledge that as human beings we have these needs, like food, shelter, warmth, that we are constantly, consciously endeavoring to reduce the amount of harm that we do, reduce the amount that we take from the world around us, and increase the amount that we give and give back, and increase the amount that we actually heal and help the land. And my dream, when I die, is that I have left the world a significantly better place. Whether it's relationship-wise, whether it's that we have more trees that are bigger, whether the water is cleaner, the air is cleaner, the animals are healthier and happier, and everyone around us is being inspired to live a better life.